Vice Mayor Quasman. All right, it's 5:05. My apology for getting a late start here. Thank you for being here. I'd like to now call the January 13th, 2026 regular City Council meeting and work study session to order. City Clerk Ben Lane, will you please give us a roll call?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Lisa Borowski.
Present.
Vice Mayor Adam Quasman. Council members Jane DeBoscus.
Here.
Barry Graham.
Here.
Kathy Littlefield.
Here.
Marianne McCallum.
Present.
And Solange Whitehead.
Here.
City Manager Greg Caton.
Here.
Interim City Attorney Louis Santea.
Present.
City Treasurer Sonia Andrews.
Here.
Acting City Auditor Leigh Clough.
Here.
And the clerk is present. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. This evening we have Scottsdale Police Officer Kyle Sholak, Officer Ray Wilburn, and Sergeant Eric Bowles, as well as Scottsdale firefighter Ethan Ritterbush and Logan Kohler. In the event anyone requires assistance, please let a member of those individuals know, or a member of our staff here at the desks. And for the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to ask Councilwoman DeBoscus to lead us in that. Thank you. And for the invocation, I'll ask Councilwoman Whitehead to help us with that.
Thank you, Mayor. I am looking for Pastor Jackie. There she is. Okay, great. I'll read a few remarks. Let me pull my notes up here. I am, first of all, Happy New Year. And I am pleased to have brought Pastor Jackie Parks here to give us an invocation. She is the recipient, most recently, the recipient of the 2025 Scottsdale Leadership Francis Young Award, and she is recognized as the visionary leader and pastor of the South Scottsdale Presbyterian Church, and for founding the Community House, a day relief center for people experiencing homelessness. And she's just a treasure to our community. So with that, Pastor Jackie, please come up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Borowski, Council. It's my great honor to be here and to serve the city of Scottsdale as a pastor and a leader that cares for and leads our community to love the unhoused. So would you pray with me? Spirit of wisdom, compassion, and shalom, we ask for a blessing upon this gathering and upon our leaders in the city of Scottsdale. May prophetic love stir our hearts, calling us to see clearly, to speak truthfully, and to act courageously for the good of all. Guide us to give particular tender care and attention to the vulnerable and those pushed to the margins, and may you give imagination that shapes policies rooted in dignity and justice. May our deliberations lead us to be participants in your peace, and may we be moved by your kindness and compassion, seeking the common good with humility, cooperation, and hope. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much for joining us here today. We appreciate it. Before I give my mayor's report, I'd like to extend my deepest and sincere sadness and well wishes to the family of our former Attorney General Mark Brnovich, who I learned passed away today. So my thoughts and prayers go out to his family. He was a great man and great service to our state. And our thoughts are with his family and everyone that knew him. So as informed my mayor's report tonight, first I'd like to thank everyone that was here last week for our downtown summit, Old Town Summit. There was such a great attendance, and so many passionate stakeholders showed up to give their thoughts and ideas about Old Town and the downtown area. And as a result of that meeting, I'm pleased to announce that I am moving forward with the creation of the mayor's ad hoc downtown Scottsdale task force, which will be a 15-member group that will focus on key issues like marketing, tourism, parking, and the downtown character area plan, and all kinds of ideas that will ideally benefit and advance the goals of Old Town and downtown and our city as a whole. The representatives of the ad hoc committee will represent areas including historic Old Town, Fifth Avenue, the Entertainment District, and the Arts District, which will include merchants, property owners, and tourism leaders. And if you are interested in becoming part of that group, please reach out to our office. I really would love to hear from you at the mayor's office. Moving right along, at the presentations tonight, we have one presentation which relates to our employee recognition program, where the City Council recognizes employees with 20 or more years of service as of January 2026. Presenting on this topic, we have Holly Peralta, Interim Senior Director, Communications and Public Affairs. Thank you for being here, Holly.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Borowski and members of City Council. In 2026, we will proudly recognize 810 employees reaching service milestones ranging from 1 to 40 years. And among them, we have 159 employees who have dedicated 20 or more years of service to the city this year, and we will be recognizing them at the start of every month. Tonight, we are recognizing employees who in January mark 20 or more years of service with the City of Scottsdale. At 20 years, we have Christopher Colmer and Laura Roberts. At 25 years, we have David Alvarado and Paul Harubi and Morel. And 30 years of service, we have Chris Lechner and Burke McGee. And if any of you are here tonight, we invite you to come forward where we can give you a round of applause and thank you for your service and take a picture. But we do thank these employees for their impact that they have made and for helping make Scottsdale a stronger, resilient city year after year. We thank you for your service.
Thank you so much. I was going to announce his name, but I don't have his name.
You got to lay down.
And that was Sergeant Alvarado, who has 25 years' experience. So thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for your service to the City of Scottsdale. All right, as is always the case, during tonight's meeting, the council may make a motion to recess into executive session in order to obtain legal advice on any applicable item on the agenda. If that happens, the executive session would be held immediately and will not be open to the public. And the public meeting would resume immediately following the exec session. Next, we have the approval of the meeting minutes, and if there are no revisions, I will entertain a motion to approve the work-study session minutes of October 7th, 2025, regular meeting minutes of October 7th, 2025, special meeting minutes of October 21st, 2025, and regular meeting and work-study session minutes of October 21st, 2025.
So moved. Second.
I hear a first and a second. So all those in favor, please indicate your vote. Thank you. And I see that Councilwoman Whitehead would like to speak on an issue. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move to have my council support the residents who are here to speak, to suspend council rules and allow those here to make public comments to go ahead and speak at the beginning of the meeting right now, as opposed to waiting until the end. So I hope, how many people are here for public remarks? Are there some? Yeah, so thank you. Thank you for being here. We really do appreciate it. So I urge my council and colleagues to go ahead and allow these residents to speak now, as opposed to waiting until the end of the meeting. Thank you. That's my motion.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, you're referring to non-agendized public comment?
Thank you, Mayor. That's correct. The motion is for non-agendized public comment and to hold that at the beginning versus the end. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to suspend the rule as it applies to the order of public comment. Please indicate your vote for that. Oh, yes, excuse me. Vice Mayor Quasman, there you are.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, unfortunately, we're starting 2026 with controversy unnecessarily, and it saddens me that there's no need to be able to move right back into division that was already something that we settled and dealt with in 2025. I understand that the vote did not go for the proponent for Solange in the last, City Council Member Whitehead, sorry, for Councilmember Whitehead in 2025. But again, I think that in the spirit of 2026 and people in a contentious council already, there's no need to continue to rehash this over and over again. I hope with this vote, this is, you'll understand that rule changes occur in multiple councils and that a deep respect for First Amendment rights was balanced with proper flow of the council. And so I urge my colleagues to remember their vote in 2025 and allow this council to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Quasman. I'm all in favor of having non-agendized comment first. So I'm going to vote on this motion just in a vacuum on what it stands for. I was opposed to the rule change, and so be it. There are 11 people on the non-agendized public comment. I have no problem having you go before the business at hand on the agenda gets going, so I'm going to vote yes, but let's just have the vote. All right, that motion does not pass, and so we will move right along to the consent agenda. And if you, I don't know who's saying that, but if you could keep your outbursts, I don't mean that pejoratively, but it'll make the meeting go smoother and quicker, as always. So consent agenda. Next we have consent agenda items 1 through 17. Does anyone have anything they'd like to ask questions about or pull off the agenda?
Mayor, we need to approve the minutes.
Oh, we need to approve the minutes.
We approved them. We did.
Oh, we
Okay.
did?
Thank you, Kathy, for confusing me.
I'm sorry.
Did you vote?
I don't-
Yeah, you voted.
Okay.
All right.
I apologize, Mayor.
No problem. No problem. All right. Does anyone have any questions or wish to pull off anything on the consent agenda? I don't see any indication to speak, but I hear that Councilwoman DeBoscus has a comment. Is that right? On number 15. On number 15. I realize that. So I was speaking to the council. I don't see any questions or desire to pull anything off. And so with that, I will move to public comment before we take any vote on the consent agenda items 1 through 17. And I'll call on Roger Lurie, followed by Neil Shear. please. And we're going to go right over here. Excuse me, Mr. Lurie, we've changed things around a little bit. The public speaker podium is over here to my right.
Good evening, Mayor Borowski and members of the City Council. My name is Roger Lurie. I chair the Human Services Advisory Commission, but I'm speaking tonight personally to urge you to adopt Ordinance number 4699 to increase the voluntary utility billing donation for Scottsdale Cares to $2 per month per meter. For more than 30 years, Scottsdale Cares has been one of the city's most effective tools for addressing community needs before they become crises. Through partnerships with well-trusted local nonprofits, this program supports housing stability, food assistance, healthcare access, and critical services for seniors, families, and individuals facing hardship. Each year, Scottsdale Cares funds services reach more than 6,000 Scottsdale residents and prevent more costly outcomes. Increasing this donation to Scottsdale Cares is fiscally responsible and a preventative investment. It strengthens proven programs, protects our most vulnerable neighbors, and helps preserve the quality of life in Scottsdale. I urge the council to support this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lurie. Neil Scherer.
Good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. Thank you for your service, by the way. I'm Neil Scherer. I've called Scottsdale home for over 45 years. And I know it sometimes could be ill-advised to pull an item off the consent agenda, especially when you support that item. But this item is near and dear to my heart. I was privileged to serve as the Human Services Director back in 1995 when the City Council first authorized Scottsdale Cares. And over the last 30 years, we've had the opportunity from our generous residents to raise over $5 million to support local nonprofits. So my chair on the commission, my colleague Roger Lurie, covered really the importance of this program. So I just wanted to take a moment and thank the people who worked incredibly hard to get it to this point. And that would include your amazing human services staff, which I know you do, that you know they do incredible work every day. The utility billing team was very critical to this. They rarely get any public notice at all, but they were very helpful in working out the details to bring this forward. Of course, the legal team and the city manager's office were extremely helpful. And so I just wanted to be here for the sequel from 30 years ago to now, and I'm looking forward to raising more money for these important causes. Our nonprofits in this community do so much heavy lifting, and the fabric of our service delivery, social service delivery in Scottsdale is made up not only of the city and not only of the faith community and the charitable foundations and the educational components of our community, but our nonprofits really do great work, and this recognizes them, and every dollar that comes into this program goes through a very rigorous review process, ultimately for city council approval, and every dollar ends up going through, it's a pass-through directly to our nonprofits. So thank you. I appreciate your support on this program.
Thank you, Neil. Appreciate you coming to speak to us. Councilwoman McCallan.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank Chairman Lurie for his service to the Human Services Commission, and I did want to give Neil Scherer a shout out. He did say that he was on staff at the time. He also happened to be my supervisor when I worked in Human Services when this program was created, and it's been a long time. Trying not to get choked up. Neil served exponentially in creating this, and the fact that he could be here for this, and to thank all the people involved. Just yesterday, Partners for Paiute got a huge donation from our Firefighters Association. All these nonprofits working together in our community house that Pastor Jackie Parks runs. All these wonderful programs really continue to grow because Scottsdale Cares invests back into them. So thank you, Neil, for all you've done for the city, and thank you, Human Services Commissioners. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I don't see any other requests to speak, and so that concludes public comment on this, the consent agenda items, and I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 17.
Mayor, so moved.
Thank you. All those or opposed,
Second.
please register your vote. All right, moving on to the regular agenda. Item number 18, fiscal year 2024 annual financial audit. This is a request to accept the fiscal year 2024-25 annual financial audit reports submitted by the city's external auditor, Heinfeld, Meach and Company. And presenting on this topic this evening is not Lake Clough. Oh, it is going to be you? Okay, there we are. Someone else. And acting city auditor, there she is, Brittany Williams of Heinfeld, Meach and Company. Acting city auditor, Lake Clough, and this is Brittany.
Thank you, Mayor Borowski.
I know who
Council
Lake Clough
members.
is. I read those together. Pardon me.
Thank you. I'll just do a brief introduction before I hand it over to Brittany. So on the agenda tonight, we have a presentation on the audit of the fiscal year 24-25 financial statements. Included in there are the citywide annual comprehensive financial reports, along with the financial reports for the 4 community facility districts and the municipal property corporation. Those reports are prepared by the accounting department and then audited each year by our CPA firm, Heinfeld and Meach. The auditor's office manages that CPA contract on behalf of council, and we have contracted with Heinfeld and Meach for this year to do the audit. The state law does require that the firm present the results to council within 90 days of completion of the audit. It was completed in November, and it went to the audit committee December 12th. So with that, I'll hand it off to Brittany to go over the results of that audit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lay. Mayor Borowski, members of the City Council, thank you so much for having me here this evening. Again, I'm Brittany Williams. I work for Heinfeld Meach and Company here in our Scottsdale office, and it is always a pleasure to be here. We work directly with Anna Henthorn and her team in finance and Lay in internal audit, and meet several times a year with the audit committee. And so I'm familiar with many of you, and you've seen the reports, but we will go ahead and briefly cover everything that we have here in the presentation tonight. So as Lay mentioned, the charter does require City Council to designate a CPA to audit the financial statements and then present this at the City Council meeting. This is just the face of the independent auditor's report that we issued on the City of Scottsdale audit this year. As you'll notice, the first paragraphs are the opinion on the financial statements. We issued a clean opinion. Everything looked really good, as it has for several years now. We also do the same auditor's report, independent auditor's report on all 4 CFDs, as well as the Municipal Property Corporation. All 5 of those component units also received a clean audit opinion. After we issue our audit opinion, I also send a communication directly to those charged with governance. So it's a letter directly from me, the independent auditor, to the audit committee members and ultimately City Council, so that you know of any significant things that took place in the audit, if there were significant estimates, any audit adjustments that we needed to make, any sort of disagreements with management, difficulties encountered during the audit, they would be in those letters. I issue that, right after we issue our audit opinion. We had no issues. It was, again, a clean audit, and everything looked really good. We will be issuing our single audit report in its totality, but we have issued our independent auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting, which is required when you have a government audit. Obviously, governments get to do lots of extra stuff related to internal controls, and so we had a clean report on that as well. There were no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, no non-compliance. Everything in internal controls looked really tight. We are actually, Anna and I and the team were talking just today. We're very close to issuing the single audit report, which is where we review federal grants on a risk-based process, and we audit a couple of grants every year. So far this year, everything looks good. It's going to be a clean report. Again, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies or noncompliance. We also issue a state funding compliance report for the Highway User Revenue Fund money, saying that those monies were issued or being used in the proper way, and that looked good. We have some more reports to issue that are due at the end of March. That would be the HUD REAC for housing, as well as the annual expenditure limitation report for the city. So as you can see, the audit just goes all year long. It never really ends. As soon as we issue all of the reports, we just start again. So. And then I believe this is the requested action to accept the audit report. But I'm here for any questions, should you have any questions for me at this time.
I don't see any questions, so if that concludes your presentation, Leigh, did you have anything else to add?
Mayor, no, that was it. Thank you.
And we have not received any requests to speak on this item, so with that, I will entertain a motion to accept the fiscal year 2024-25 annual financial audit reports submitted by
Yeah, so moved.
Seinfeld, Meach, and Company.
Sorry, it removed from the screen, so I'm unable to. Okay, yes, so moved. Thank you.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please register your vote. Thank you. Thank you, Heidi, for being here. Next, we have item number 19, the 2026 legislative session update. This presentation and discussion will be about and possible direction or action to city staff and the city's state lobbying services contractor, who will provide an overview of the legislative environment, state budget outlook, and major policy issues expected to be considered by the Arizona legislature. That sounds like a lot. And presenting on this topic this evening is Sarah Sparman, Government Relations Manager, and Dr. Mark Osborne of Kutak Rock.
Good evening,
Thank
Mayor
you.
and Council. I'd like to take a minute to introduce Mark Osborne, Dr. Mark Osborne of Kutak Rock. As you know, Kutak Rock is now our state lobbying firm. The legislative session gavelled in yesterday. The 57th second regular session is officially in full swing. We will be coming before council monthly to provide these legislative updates during sessions so that you can be informed, ask questions. We'll keep them on the regular schedule. Mark's here today to give you kind of a brief overview. We have seen a lot of bills dropped. We're about 450 right now. We anticipate by the end of the week that could double because of the first House deadline. So I will let Mark kind of give us a big picture of the upcoming legislation.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. For the record, Mark Osborne with Kutak Rock. In the time frame that Sarah was walking down from her office, they dropped 11 more bills, so we're now up to 460 bills on the first day of session. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of give you a sense of kind of what the big picture issues are, then narrow down a little bit towards the more municipal-focused issues, and then kind of talk through. At any time during the presentation, feel free to ask questions or wait till the end, whatever the mayor would prefer, but I have no preference one way or the other. As Sarah mentioned, yesterday was the first day of session. We will typically see a massive drop of legislation this week. All House members have a bill limit unless they drop bills by the end of this week, and so we'll see probably by the end of the week another 400 more bills. I would anticipate, based on the folder openings, meaning the legislative ideas, that we're going to be close to 2,000 bills. And we've heard rumors, we've never gone over 2,000, that they're already trying to figure out a alternative numbering source. So not to say that there's 2,000 good ideas, but there are 2,000 bills. Key governor's priorities, and I'll give you a little riff on the presentation because I'll give you a little sense of what was in the governor's state of the state yesterday. But her focus, K-12 education, water policy, modernizing state government, and I'll drill down on that in just a minute. I think the overview of the whole legislature is we have a kind of a, what I call a challenging fiscal background. We're not in a deficit. We only have about a $68 million surplus, which you think about that on an $18 billion budget is basically rounding error. The biggest challenge that I think we're going to see is what, in the biggest political fight, and it will actually begin as early as tomorrow, is what to do with what we call tax conformity. Every year the legislature, it's normally a fairly procedural thing where we try to basically take the tax code. If there's federal changes at the state level, we want to mirror those because it creates convenience for taxpayers. However, when you have a big tax policy change like you did in H.R. 1, those changes have a fairly large fiscal cost, and we're looking at about $450 million per year in full implementation. And those are things like no tax on tips, expanded deductions, corporate income sourcing, things of those nature. And what you're going to see right off the bat is some real debate between the governor's office and the Republicans in the legislature about what they're going to conform to. The governor has already stated she wants to focus in on no tax on tips, some of the more, what she calls middle class. I think the Republicans want to go more aggressive, more towards full conformity. What I hear is not quite full conformity, but picking up more of the tax incentives and economic stuff on the business side. And so at some point during the budget process, they're going to have to reconcile that. I think the one thing that we've been chatting with Ms. Barman about is making sure that anything that adjusts state share revenues, that we're anticipating that and no harm will occur. Obviously, it's an election year, and so we will have all kinds of posturing and fun on both sides, and that's nothing new, but it will just be heightened because it's election year. State budget, as I said before, we're looking at about a $68 million surplus. The other thing that is really challenging the budget is with some of the cuts to the state Medicaid program and the SNAP program, that the legislature is going to have to make some decisions along with the governor on, do you increase the state contribution to hold those programs harmless? What adjustments do you make? Do you change reimbursement rates for providers? While it's not a direct impact on kind of our piece of the state budget, I mention that because it's such a large piece of the state budget that anytime there's a cold in the Medicaid program, the whole state kind of gets sick because it's such a large piece of the budget. The governor came in with a fairly conservative budget approach, asking agencies to keep spending under 2%. And so any new spending is really going to have a high bar to get over in terms of a state budget. So I think in a lot of sense it will be budget as we know, very flat line, but focusing on those target areas that I just described before. Other major budget items, probably the biggest other fiscal issue is what we call Proposition 123. About 10 years ago, the legislature and the voters approved of a provision that allowed out of state trust land the state to draw more of that corpus down quicker, or the interest on that corpus quicker. It generates about $350 million of K-12 spending, and that has since expired, so they need to renew it. There are some fairly significant policy differences between the Democrats and Republicans on how to restructure that. but that's a big piece of the budget, and getting that resolved, I think, will have an important issue. Infrastructure and capital backlog is always a continual issue. I think a lot of the key things when we were in the surplus years, a lot of that funding that came through in the capital budgets, making sure that's protected, particularly in the transportation and local government range, as they try to balance the budget. Water is going to be, as it has been the last couple of years, a huge issue. This year we're really focused on CAP, what's going on with the other basin states, and how the state will adapt. There's working groups. You're already seeing legislation this afternoon. One of the committees passed legislation to increase a litigation fund over the Colorado River allocation, so we're already anticipating that that may not go as smooth as we would hope, and obviously with the upper basin states really digging in their heels, I think that may get more contentious. And then you'll probably see some discussion about tax policy, economic competitiveness, as we always do. So those are kind of the bigger picture major issues. A couple other areas we're really focusing on. Housing affordability is still a big theme. I think we're starting to get out of the continual, like, zoning is the problem. I think a lot of the advocates on that side of just getting rid of zoning I think it's starting to wear thin. And we've actually done a lot in that area. And I think now they're starting to look at other issues. As an example, one of the issues that they're looking at is how to bring more condos into the market. And they're actually realizing that it's a litigation environment on construction defect that's the biggest detractor right now for getting new condos built. So they have a working group on that. Good news is they're not going after local government authority, but they're looking at other parts of the problem, which I think is thoughtful. Water policy implementation, I think you'll start to see some stuff on recently passed ag to urban and some of the other major some kind of refinements of that. But I think really all the oxygen is going to be sucked out of the Colorado River discussion and how, as a state, that we're going to respond. Border security will be a continual political football. Republicans trying to make the governor look weak. The governor trying to say how she's done great things, and wherever you're on either side of that, they're going to squawk about it. So that's just a normal election. And then divided government, as I said before. It's election year, and everyone wants to upscale their fight. So the more targeted issues, I think you're starting to see kind of a little bit of, I wouldn't say buyer's remorse on some of the expand of ADU, where they're kind of saying, the legislature, more and more folks are saying, maybe we went a little too far, and maybe we need to start looking at some refinements to that legislation. I know a number of folks in our delegation are looking at things and supporting our efforts on sprinklers, but also looking at, if we're going to have ADUs, let's make sure they're for housing and not another vehicle for short-term rentals, particularly in certain areas where we have housing shortages. Local control, I think we're still going to be fighting some of those efforts to basically, that folks that believe that zoning still is the problem, and so we'll be positioning Scottsdale to retain that local control, allow us to have our destiny, allow us to protect our property rights. I think the short-term rentals, this is, I think, an ongoing fight, but I think we're starting to see a little bit more of what I call a tipping point, where I think the externalities of some of these short-term rentals in these communities, you're seeing more and more citizens become concerned, and each year it seems to grow and grow. Before it was just Sedona, and then it was Paradise Valley and Scottsdale. All of a sudden, I think we're starting to get, hopefully, to some type of a critical mass. I'm not sure we're there quite this year, but to give you a sense, I think the short-term housing, or short-term rental industry has created their own new trade association in anticipation of more and more fights on that. And so I think that's going to be a very, very interesting area. On the area of public safety and technology, I think the legislature is going to look to probably put some guardrails or handcuffs potentially on license plate readers and making sure that they're used appropriately. And so I think we need to guard against kind of that overreaction to say, this is a valuable tool, but just make sure it's used properly. I know that some of the police chiefs have gotten together and kind of done some proactive legislation that kind of says, here's some reasonable guidelines, and hopefully that type of approach will win the day versus kind of the knee-jerk reaction like we typically see in photo radar, like no photo radar and balancing that. So I think you're going to see quite a bit of discussion in those areas. Fiscal stability and revenue, I think I think on the proactive side, you're also seeing some members start to really look at, as governments are modernizing, do we really need to rely on newspapers as the communication technique? More and more citizens, or very few citizens, use some of those techniques to find out about public meetings, and now how can we modernize? And Sarah and I have seen a number of different bills that have kind of got on that area, and I think we'll figure out which ones make the most sense. And then, obviously, transportation infrastructure, we've talked a little bit about. Water and environmental policy will continue to be with water really driving that issue. To give you a little bit of a sense of how quickly this moves, so the legislature will basically address 1,800 bills in about 4 to 6 months. If they go 4 months, I'm usually pretty happy. If they go 6 months, I'm really grumpy. But usually about 4 to 6 months, hopefully more on the 4-month side, mainly because they have an election year. And so maybe they want to get out and start campaigning. But you can see kind of some of the key deadlines. So usually by the 20th, we'll have a sense of how many bills total we'll have. Early February, we'll know kind of what the major universe of bills is. And then each time that we'll come to you and present, it's kind of a narrowing down of more and more bills die because they didn't make it through the process. And then our efforts become less broad in interpreting all the bills and trying to categorize them, see what we care about, to focusing in on those bills that we really care about, our proactive agenda, those type of things. And then my partner, Dan Rahm, who's sitting up there in the second seat, he's optimistic, and he put 4/25 as the date that you will be safe from the legislature. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, and welcome aboard. We approved your contract not too long ago, so thank you, and good luck this session. I don't see any questions or comments, so, and meaning no direction to, Councilman Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. It was a good presentation, and just it's, I don't know how dynamics changed. Last year was a rough year for local control, especially in Scottsdale. But really, I mean, these rights apply to all Arizonans, and it was a tough year for all of them. And so you talked about, how are things different in an election year? I mean, it just at this point, I'm just kind of thinking year to year, session by session. I appreciate that you brought all that up and talked about it, addressed it. I was kind of flummoxed by how many bill numbers there are. I mean, because you said, there's probably a finite number of good ideas, but there's infinite number of bad ideas. I mean, what's the saying? The difference between stupidity and idiocy is that stupidity has its limits. And so I'm just concerned about chipping away at our short-term rental, the invasion of that, and using our housing for housing. Local control and housing preemption. And then you talked about water sustainability, water policy. It's huge, like Councilwoman Kathy Littlefield said, and I agree with. I am interested, but I don't want to get into a rat hole with this. I am interested in the Joint Legislative Budget Committee, how accurate their forecasts typically are, because they say that they're basically saying that revenues are going to meet expenses or expenditures, but I am curious, maybe like their batting average, but we don't have to discuss it today. But I appreciate that you're taking these head on. I think that, you know, especially doing what you're doing in the first 90 days of the session, when, you know, there's the most zeal and sort of catalytic impetus to get stuff done. And I look forward to, I'm sure all my colleagues up here look forward to you returning and keeping the residents and the council updated. So thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I can respond to the
Of
GLBC
course.
question really quick, and I'll be focused. They actually do a very thoughtful job about it. What happens is they have a group of economists, U of A, ASU, a number of experts, and they all sit on a quarterly basis and try to dissect where and then the governor's office has a similar, and then during the budget process, they try to link them up. And sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, but they're usually within 1% or 2%.
Oh, good.
But when you think about 1% or 2% on an $18 billion budget, that's a lot of money. So
I know.
and the big challenge is when you have something like HR 1 with all those multiple tax changes, it creates a lot more uncertainty. And so the potential to be off is significant. We do have a very big rainy day fund in case there are, you know, big issues, and kind of go from
Oh, yeah, no, the tax conformity is a big one because it, you know, it boils down to, you know, how you define adjusted gross income, modified adjusted gross income, you know, whether deductions go above or below certain lines and what that rolls forward to the Form 140. And so, are you enjoying this tax discussion, Vice Mayor Quasman? So it's something that, you know, CPAs are geeking out about and panicking about, and we'll be watching it, but thank you.
Vice Mayor Quasman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Osborne. It's fantastic. And as a former member of the JLBC, I want to tell you that there were members of the legislature who tried to put bills through that were closer to Tabor. So instead of trying to predict how the weather in the future, it was all we would do in order to budget for Arizona was to spend as much money as tax revenue came in the year prior, plus inflation, plus population growth. I think that responsible approach is also something that we can do in Scottsdale. And looking forward to working with my colleagues to maybe putting something there as a way that we manage our budget.
All right, looks like that's all we have for you. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. And one last part, where if there's anything I do better in the presentation, just let Sarah know. This is my first. If I'm not hitting the right notes or things you want us focused on, constructive criticism is requested.
Thank you for that, Dr. Osborne. All right, moving on to item number 20. Item number 20 asks for consideration to adopt resolution 13584, amending the 2020 Rules of Council Procedure. And presenting on this, we have Interim City Attorney Luis Santea and City Clerk Ben Lane. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, we have a brief presentation for you all today on 2 proposed rule changes for our council rules. Next slide, please. Just some quick background. I know we went over this recently, but our council rules were first adopted in September 2011. They have been amended 7 times since then. This would be the potential 8th amendment. Traditionally, these changes have been discussed with each new council, and so we only have 2 rule changes today. We'll be talking about each of them individually, and just the proposed changes are noted in green font and with strike-throughs. Next slide, please. So the first one would be a new rule, and basically what it would do is it would allow the city clerk, with the concurrence of the manager, to cancel meetings if the clerk is provided advance notice, at least 2 business days, that basically a quorum of the council can attend the meeting. The council would be required to present that notice to the clerk by email, so each council member would need to email the clerk and say they cannot attend a meeting. And then once a quorum is determined that a quorum can attend, I would administratively cancel the meetings. So that's the first change. Next slide, please. So this practice is already done by our boards and commissions, It is done by several of our peer cities as well. The benefits to this is it does provide advance notice to the public that the meeting will be canceled so that the public doesn't come down here for a meeting that can't be held. Additionally, there's some resource savings as well. As you all know, there's numerous resources that go into a council meeting, including resources related to public safety, the city manager's office, the communications office, and the clerk's office as well, along with all the staff that attend at meetings as well. So there will be resource savings there. And additionally, while the council did, during the last time we looked at the council rules, they did remove the polling the polling provision that would allow for individual items to be added. We still have a polling provision that allows the council to cancel a meeting through a poll. This would reduce the need for that type of polling because the council would just individually notify the clerk, and then the clerk could cancel the meeting without having to do a poll. So it does reduce polling requests greatly. So before we move on to the next role, is there any council questions or feedback on this one?
I do, before I see Councilwoman Whitehead has one as well. Has this ever happened, as far as you're aware, in the city's history that 4 council members could not attend a meeting?
Mayor, we did have a meeting back in October. That was a special meeting that was called, that 4 council members did inform me that they could not attend. They called me individually, and you ended up canceling that meeting.
I recall they wanted to cancel the meeting, not that they could not attend. So is this just so I guess that begs the next question. Is there any criteria, meaning they'd be out of town, or is this just a way to cancel a meeting?
Mayor, this would, if a council member can't attend, this would just allow them to contact me and say, I can't attend this meeting. I don't know if we set up any specific criteria related to that.
Mayor and members of the council, just to weigh in terms of what my colleague is saying, this is similar to other commissions and boards. So it's something that has been traditionally done for those. For the administrative reasons Ben talked about, and it's an efficiency measure.
Okay, and would the names of the council members be known and published that indicated their intention not to attend?
Yes, they would be, because they'd be sent in an email, which would be public record.
Okay. All right, thank you for those answers. Councilwoman Whitehead.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know where this idea came from. Governments aren't supposed to be efficient. We're supposed to be effective. And we have repeatedly, this past year, shut down government, shut down the voices of the people, shut down the voices of businesses. And now it appears that if 4 members of the city council don't like a subject matter, we shut down the meeting. This makes absolutely no sense. And just as a reminder for anybody who may not know, boards and commissions are not elected. They're appointed. They provide guidance. They don't decide. The council does. So evading tough subjects by getting together and finding 3 pals to say we don't want to go to the meeting is silly. Now, come on. You all wanted to be up here, I presume, which is why you ran for office. So let's put this to rest. This makes no sense. I have never in my 30 years known of a council that couldn't show up to a meeting, especially in this day and age when, frankly, you can call from Hawaii or wherever the heck you are. So I strongly oppose this, and I think it is a waste of time, and to call it efficient just makes me pretty cranky. So I will be opposing this.
Let me interrupt our council debate up here because I want to call on the 2 speakers, Steve Sutton and Dan Isaac, on item number 20.
Steve Sutton, address on record. Good evening, Honorable Lisa Borowski, Mayor of Scottsdale, and council members. Last year, I was going to all the Parks and Recreation Commission meetings. So I've seen a few commission meetings. You know, this kind of makes it's probably a good idea for commissions and boards made up of volunteers, and they're not elected. And they don't have a charter that requires them to be conducting meetings twice a month. And of course, the attendance at commission meetings is quite low compared to what we have at council meetings. However, I think most Scottsdale residents are becoming more and more aware that we are going to have our intelligence insulted repeatedly by certain members of this council. Now, it's quite obvious what this is about. This is about allowing a four-person block of political votes to cancel meetings they don't want to have occur because they don't like the subjects of them, and most likely directed toward trying to stop the mayor from calling special meetings. Keep this up, and believe me, you're just getting more attention to the electorate, and they are definitely going to respond to this kind of behavior. It's quite obvious what you're doing. There's a reason why you all have a nickname. I just can hardly believe what's going on in this city. And I'm so tired of having to fight this battle, but I am not going to give up until November to make sure that this city gets back on track. This is outrageous. Never in the history have we had 4 people just not show up. That's almost, I don't know. Mr. Isaac here is a whiz at these kind of things. I'm sure he can probably statistically figure out what the odds are that that's going to happen, because I think they're going to be incredibly low. I just can't believe you think you're just going to get away with this and people aren't going to notice. You need to be here. We have video monitoring of the council so that people can see what you're doing. Like Mr. Quasman looking down, I think, on his phone right now. He's not really paying attention. Or when Mr. Quasman is constantly getting up and leaving the Kiva. That's communication to the residents. Just like not showing up for a council meeting is communication to the residents and will be videotaped. Pardon me, video recorded. I'm showing my age. It's so obvious. And, you know, we have social media now, and people can afford full-page ads in the newspaper and write letters to the editor. There's going to be so much coverage of what's going on. You really need to rein it in and find some place in the middle. I keep seeing little legal maneuvering done here, and believe me, people know exactly what it is. Thank you for your time. And Mayor Borowski, I believe I am first person to speak at public comment. I'd like a few minutes before I have to speak at public comment, and I'd like to give my first slot to D. Logan to speak rather than me.
At the end.
And speak at,
Okay.
either speak at the end or whatever her
No
spot
problem.
is.
No
Thank you.
problem. And
Thank you.
I see Vice Mayor Quasman. Did you want to say a word in response? Not in response, but period, a word, period.
No, it's not in response. Many members, thank you, Madam Mayor. Many members of this council have iPad devices that they look down at and take notes on, and happy to use that. Furthermore, I believe that the speaker spoke truthfully when I did get up quite often in the last meeting. I don't know if you see this, but I want to make sure everybody can see the 3 bottles of liquid that I have in front of me. Now, it is very true that upon ingestion of certain liquid, that certain nature does have to call, and everybody is a little different. It's something that I deal with, and I apologize that I have to get up frequently, and in fact, I'm going to use this opportunity to go right now. So, thank you.
All right, Dan Isaac.
There's always astronaut underwear you can wear. Dan Isaac, address on record. There are 2 items in this proposed change, and I want to speak on both of them. The first one, on its surface, doesn't appear illogical until we take into account the current state of play of this council. We have 3 members who actively worked to throw our mayor out of the office. So this is a blatant attempt to prevent the mayor from calling special meetings. Now, those 3 members, there's Bad Barry, whose mouthpiece, Rod Pritchett, Scottsdale voter, routinely disparages the mayor. There's Adam Quasman, who sent vulgar-laden, threatening texts to the mayor, threatening to physically remove her from the office. And all of this is available data. And there's the recording of Jan DeBoscus, where she made it clear that they're trying to remove the mayor from the office. That is also the tape where she referred to the mayor as a bitch. Now, if this were a normal, well-operating council, this change would make sense, but it's not. It's vindictive. In my 61 years on God's green earth, I believe I have used the words audacity and hypocrisy more in this room than I have at any other time in any other place on earth, because this council reeks of it. And Adam Quasman beginning this meeting by saying he wants to put the contention in the past is laughable when he was tweeting at the last meeting, the special meeting that the mayor called, talking about what a waste of time it was. So his hypocrisy and audacity is ridiculous. As far as the second change, the Fanatic Four want to limit public comment for efficiency purposes, but now they want to introduce an opportunity for council members to speak ad nauseum on any topic at any time during the meeting. How is this efficient? More importantly, council members can work with the rest of the council and the city staff to agendize topics that should be discussed by the council. They do not need an additional opportunity to blather on about their accomplishments or for political purposes. Both of these changes reek and are disgusting, and they're about contention and divisiveness. And this needs to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. All right. I'm going to move to Councilman Graham. Do you want to speak to the rule of procedure that's on the table here? You're on the list.
Oh,
You don't have to.
I didn't mean to press the button if I did.
Okay. Vice Mayor Quasman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to remind members here that not every rule change is an attempt to subvert, and remind everybody of a very short history that I believe it was last year that it was the mayor who wanted to cancel a regular meeting unilaterally. I think that happened roughly February of last year, which was within her right. She did it within the 24 hours. And so before we, again, in the spirit of making 2026 something that we don't turn every issue into a hugely contentious and hotly contentious issue, I beg my colleagues to seek the positive as quickly as possible, as first of all, and then we could always have robust debate and battle it out up here. But before we cast aspersions toward villainy, we make sure that we look at the history and we look forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And Vice Mayor Quasman is absolutely correct. I did, for policy reasons, which was my right to do under the rules of council procedure, move to indicated the cancellation of a meeting, at which point anonymous polling went on behind the scenes to stop the cancellation, which was in opposition, which was not provided for in the rules. So interesting times at City Hall. But for the record, I think if you're going to do that, you should do that out in public and for the public consumption and knowledge, and not in the shadows of darkness behind the scenes. So there's a whole difference as to what happened then, according to the rule of council procedure, out in the open and transparently, and what we're talking about now. So with that, I don't see any other, Vice Mayor Klausman?
I just want to say, so with due respect to the mayor's statement, I think that having this rule change, just as the city attorney stated that anybody who seeks to cancel a meeting will be made public, that does bring it out of darkness and into light. And so in that spirit, I ask for everybody's support.
Yeah, but it doesn't include the reasoning and the debate and the public transparency that comes along with doing this. So, I think it's a solution in search of a problem, or a problem that's persistent and needs solution. So obviously I'll be voting against this, and I don't see any other speakers. Do you want us to take these one at a time, or what?
Mayor, if it's okay, we can take them both together. Is that
Okay, no problem. Move right along. Thank you very much.
Next slide, please. So the other change, Mayor, is towards the very end of the agenda, right before adjournment, would be, and it would be a new item, and it would be council member reports. This would be very similar to the mayor's report for each council member. It would be for information only with no discussion. Next slide, please. So it does provide an opportunity for each council member to note items of interest, either items they're working on or items that are happening in the community. This is a practice that is done by all our peer cities in one form or another, where the council members do have an opportunity to provide an update. Just to clarify, it would be optional for each council member, and again, it would occur at the very end of the meeting, right before adjournment. Thank you.
All right, council, I don't, anyone want to speak? I should have asked that. The two speakers, did you commented already? Okay. Councilwoman McCallum.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few questions on this. It seems very vague to me. In other cities, they do it differently. I would like to know if there's a time limit. We have a time limit on public speakers. Would it be 2 minutes? Are people allowed to use video? Would they be using staff time to create these videos? Would it be a burden on the staff for these type of reports? Or would they simply be a 2-minute report, verbal? What is the definition of this? It's very vague. You could have someone come in here and do a circus and someone else do just a comment. I would like parameters on this.
So Mayor and members of the City Council, the intent was to mirror the mayor's report at the beginning and give the same opportunity to the individual council members. If the council is so inclined to put a limitation in terms of time limitation, it can do so. As you know, there's using city staff is already addressed in the council rules in terms of what you can do and how much time can be used, because sometimes city council uses city staff for other reasons, and the rule specifically calls out, I think, is it 8 hours? If it's going to take up more than 8 hours of city staff time, the council has to do it as a vote as a whole.
Mayor, may I clarify? So are you saying a staff person could use 8 hours of, a council person could use 8 hours of staff time to create their report if it happened to be a video or something?
Right now, any member of the city council can cause up to 8 hours of city staff time to be used for many different things. So this is nothing new. If the council wants to reconsider the rule on use of city staff time in general, it can do so. But right now, the council has the right to use city staff to a certain extent, up to 8 hours worth of work.
Okay.
Councilwoman McCallum, just to add to that, in addition to putting a time limit, you could also say that the presentation would be verbal only. You could add that limitation as well if you.
So am I allowed to amend your? Yes. Then I would move to amend it to 2 minutes, if it I don't even think we should do it, but I would move to amend it to 2 minutes, make it the same as the public comment. Move to amend it to 3, so it's the same as the citizens, so we're not taking more time than the citizens to do whatever.
Councilwoman
Second.
Whitehead. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
Want to say that? Do you want to state your motion? Did you make a motion? Yes. And
Well, are you motioning on both? Can we separate the two items?
let's hold off on the motion
Okay.
if you don't mind. Okay.
So again, this is a council that from day one has tried to undermine the authority of the position of mayor. When you run for council, you choose to run for city council. And yeah, you don't get as much attention. When you run for mayor, it's a different role. And the type of government we've had, the position of mayor has worked in this city, has made us the best run city until 2025, probably in the country. And this constant chipping away at the role of the mayor and this desire by my colleagues to speak but not listen. The reason we got rid of public comment is so many of the votes that this council majority has taken have been extremely unpopular and have gone against what our public believes in and their priorities. So rather than saying, wow, we made a mistake, we've just put public comment at the end. And so again, we have a process for bringing up whatever topic we want. And that is the mayor council agenda items, so that the public knows in advance what we're going to talk about. And we have a little bit of an opportunity to vet the material, so we don't just sit up here and make up stuff that may or may not represent the facts. So I guess I do have a question. The mayor's report, and this is Mayor Borowski's the third mayor that I've served under, and it's a very generic report of what is happening, such as whatever it could be the month for a certain kind of cancer that we talk about. It is not it's not a bragathon for 3 minutes or whatever else this is proposed to be. And I'm not, perhaps there's really good intents here, but who writes your mayor report every meeting?
It just depends. I can say it's mostly staff-driven. You ask me the questions, so I'll respond. And it does center on what's going on, generally in the city. But continue on.
It is. This is just completely unnecessary. I urge my colleagues to quit pretending that this is just a way to add more information to the public. We have a process. If you have a topic you're interested in, please put it on mayor council items. Please spend more time listening to the public, less time having a desire to talk. I am deeply concerned that what will be said up here will not be vetted, will not be driven by the staff, may not align with even the city's policies. It's just a kind of a bit of a free-for-all, and perhaps rather than me being upset about this, why doesn't all of my colleagues postpone the vote on this item, and let's add some guardrails. Let's add, I like the idea of a time limit. Let's try to present something that doesn't have backlash with the community, as this certainly will, and something that the 7 of us can agree on, and does in fact mirror the mayor's report, which frankly is a little bland but very informational. It's just what is happening in the community. It's not some kind of political speech. So I just want to add, again, guardrails. This actually helps all of my colleagues so they don't, mistakenly come across as doing something other than representing the public up here. So I guess what I would do right now is move to reject both of these, both resolution, both items in resolution number 13584, and postpone until we have a work study session, and so that there's clear direction as to what each of us wants to do. There are guardrails to protect the public and the time, and we don't start another, public outrage session. So I hope.
I second your motion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor Quasman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to just talk about what was most recently said, which was start another public outrage session. With all due respect to my colleague, Councilmember Whitehead, it just seems like the person who's outraged is behind the dais, and when there are items that we want to brag about that might not be in order of business, it might come periodically, and I would absolutely entertain variations or other types of ways to do the same thing. There's reasons to brag on the city. There's so many wonderful things that might just not be agendized that day, or it might not require a vote. And it would, in my opinion, it would be imprudent to put on a regular agenda. And I'll give you just a personal example of having met with, I just took a couple combat veterans out hunting, right? And they're Scottsdale combat veterans. And in order to be able to showcase them in an official manner, I don't have an avenue, a traditional avenue to be able to showcase those special people. And I don't want to, I know the mayor, every time I have asked the mayor to help me showcase somebody, she has very much accepted and been very, very sweet about it. So I want to put that on the record. That's really important. But there's opportunities to be very positive and to showcase things that that other people don't get to do. And I think this is a way for the council to be able to do just that in a positive and communal way. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to call on Councilwoman Littlefield, and then I'd like to say something before I go to you again, Councilwoman Whitehead.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, some of this upset, I think, is my fault, because I had something I wanted to discuss, and I was not allowed to do it because of the current rules of discussion and possibility of off-agenda items to be brought up in council. So I went to our lawyer, and we set this up to make it possible for the council to make announcements on things that are not on the agenda for the citizens to know about and to hear about in a public meeting, a public arena. So that's what started this, and I appreciate the help that I got from our legal consultant. But I had something I wanted to tell people that I thought was important to them, and I still have something I want to tell people that I think is important to them. And now, if we pass this, I can do it. If we don't, I can't. It's that simple. This is a benefit to the citizens, not to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm glad we know the source of that, this initiative, because that's helpful. And as Vice Mayor Quasman pointed out, and Councilwoman Littlefield, I would hope that you would know, anything that is of interest to one of my colleagues or important to them would be appropriate to ask the chair to recognize you as you know, Vice Mayor Quasman, and I would certainly defer a report or time allotment to the council and council member doing so. So there's no problem with that whatsoever. I've never been asked by a council member to take a few minutes to recognize something or talk about something important and denied that. So again, I think this might be a solution in search of a problem. And, you know, while I'm not a paranoid type of person, it does seem to fall in line with the consistent and persistent changes to make us all mayors up here, and I'm not sure what the goal is with that. And I think it's a sad situation because it just shows a lot of ego and insecurity and jealousy, candidly. And so, you know, there's always the opportunity to run for mayor. I did it twice. And I would encourage those that want to be mayor to do it instead of trying to change the entire structure of the mayor's role in Scottsdale, Arizona. I think that's a fool's errand and has been. So that's all I have to say on this. I'm opposed to both of these initiatives. Solutions in search of problems. Again, Councilwoman Whitehead.
Yeah, so I would propose, you know, I hear Councilwoman Littlefield. First of all, most of us, certainly the Littlefields, I do, many of us have newsletters. We write op-eds, which always get published. TV reporters are always calling, willing to speak. So we have plenty of avenues of getting our messages out. Some pertain to city business. Some may pertain to our political aspirations or just our life, you know. And so, again, what I'm looking for is to make sure that City Hall is a place of city business and that we have guardrails. And like I said, time limits is just one of those. And so if, in fact, this is an idea that has merit, then a work-study session that will, in fact, come out with a proposal that, again, 7 of us can support. If the desire is unity, if the desire is, in fact, to work together and to stop all of the issues we had last year where this council was constantly in the press, but not because of good behavior. So that has not benefited any of us. So one way to solve that is to go ahead and have a work-study session and then work out some of the details and make sure that, like the mayor's report, the council report is strictly limited to city business and has some, again, guardrails and oversight by the city staff to make sure that we're, you know, accurate and, in fact, focused on a city-related project. So with that, I move. If I can, yeah, I know. Would like to, I guess take, I don't know, how would I reject my motion and replace it with, Luis?
Just withdraw it.
Okay, can I withdraw? I'm going to withdraw my motion. Okay, I would like to withdraw my motion. Do I have a second for that?
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay, and I wasn't sure. All right, and thank you. And I would like to encourage, in the name of starting 2026 in a better unified front, request a work-study session. So continue resolution number 13584 until the city council can convene a work-study session to discuss these items further.
Thank you. I don't hear a second on that. Councilman Graham.
Oh, I'll second that.
Okay, Councilman Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. The you know, these changes were staff initiated, and I think it was important that we give them a hearing and think about them thoughtfully. And you know, when I listening to my colleague, Councilwoman Littlefield, it's, you know, her request makes sense. I mean, she wanted to probably brag about somebody in our community or brag about something Scottsdale, and I respect that. I trust that our professionals were thoughtful in these changes, and there was some audacious claims about perceived motives, but I don't see any of that. I think their rules of procedure are changed constantly, and if the changes don't work, we'll fix them. I mean, we keep open minds, and we're constantly refining these procedures. I'd like to just make it more positive, because there's so much to be thankful for, and Scottsdale's so blessed. We've got, Forbes just said that we were the best public employer in the state of Arizona to work for. What we're doing as far as the budget and paving our roads and bringing priorities back to the basics. Tourism is record high. We're bringing up financial scrutiny that's residents have long asked for, and we're bringing resident focus and resident values to City Hall. So I'm incredibly optimistic, and I think there's a lot to be positive for. There has been some negativity, but I think there's way more reason to celebrate and for positivity. And I respect all my colleagues, and I respect that they argue these and debate these in good faith. I just simply don't agree with some of the perceived motivations that were speculated about. It seems like a thoughtful refinement to a rule of procedure. And I was especially touched by Councilwoman Littlefield when she shared with us a few moments ago what she was thinking as far as finding an opportunity to celebrate our community and share something about it. So I appreciate all my colleagues. I respect them. And with those thoughts, I'll make an alternate motion to find my place here. Adopt Resolution 13584. Thank you.
Second.
Councilwoman DeBascus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. City Clerk, as far as the council comment, you said that all of our peer cities have something like this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Councilwoman DeBascus. Yes, all our peer cities do allow for some type of a comment by the council during the meeting. It's normally towards the end of the meeting.
And have you taken a look at several of those and sort of thought about how that would mesh within this rule when you and the city attorney crafted this?
Not specifically on that point, but I think it will actually help with open meeting law compliance, because council members can't be randomly called upon to opine on anything, right? It has to be agendized. And we've had many instances where council members talk off track, not necessarily not calling out any individual, but this helps because someone has a burning thing they want to say. Now they have a scheduled time to do it. And we can't just call in a council member at any given moment to talk about something that hasn't been properly agendized. So that's part of the whole point and the intent here.
Thank you.
Councilwoman, to add on to that, what I've seen in other jurisdictions, in cities with districts, and I know we don't have districts, but in cities with districts, the council members will talk about things that are going on in their specific district. It also, as Vice Mayor Quasman mentioned, it's an opportunity to provide kudos to residents or note something of interest to the public that maybe that council member is working on, is what I've seen. Thank you.
And you're suggesting that it be the very last item?
Yes, right before adjournment, so it would be at the very, very end of the meeting.
Okay, so you're assuming that there won't be a large audience necessarily here to hear us, but if someone wanted to stay or was observing on the video afterward, that they'd have the opportunity to do that. Was there a reason that you didn't put a time limit, or did you, the interim attorney mentioned that it would be like, does the mayor's have a time limit? Is there a reason for the lack of a time limit here?
Yeah, thank you, Councilwoman. Yeah, the mayor's report does not have a time limit, and I could definitely do more research, but I don't believe other jurisdictions have time limits. But I do think, if the council wanted to put some type of time limit, just that does make sense. But yeah.
And would you say that other jurisdictions, they don't have time limits, but they sort of have a customary expectation that you're just doing a little 1 minute, maybe 2 minute thing, and so there's a trust among council members that this is not a 20-minute campaign speech?
Right. Well, and yes, thank you, Councilwoman. And there obviously are limits already in place about campaigning from the dais, so those are already in place. And additionally, yeah, what I've seen is it's just normally very short by the council members, just because there's a realization that there's 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 council members that need to speak, and that takes time.
And so sometimes when we're out representing the city, you prepare speeches for us, your team does, and we speak on behalf of the city, isn't that right?
That's correct, Councilwoman.
And so in those times, we don't seem to put guardrails around what council members do and don't say in public events. And so it seems a little bit funny to me that we would want to put guardrails around council members at council meetings when, generally speaking, we don't have those types of guardrails, other than the basic expectation that we're here to work on the business of the city and really to focus on that. Would that seem a little bit of a contradiction to you, to have guardrails in one situation and not in another?
I think with that, Councilwoman, to me, that's really up to the council, but I do see your point. But in terms of what the council rules are, it's obviously the council's discretion to modify the rules.
Okay, thank you. I trust my fellow council members. I think that if there's something great that you want to talk about in the community, if Councilman McAllen wants to talk about Partners for Paiute, I think that would be wonderful. I would love to hear some of the things that she's doing during the week. If we all have the understanding that it's intended to be just brief, and we may not each choose to speak. It may be that none of us chooses to speak at a certain time, but if there's an announcement someone would like to make that could benefit the community, I think we should have the opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
So I appreciate this discussion. Wouldn't it be nice to have a work-study session rather than have this sort of dumped on us? I think that I agree with a lot of what my colleagues said, and I think if we hadn't so effectively shut down the public, then the idea of having more dialogue from the council would seem more appealing to me. And yes, we're all out in the public and we're all doing things. When we go to an event, it's true, it's a trust factor. We're expected to talk about the event we're at and the people that are represented by that event, whether it be a ribbon cutting. And so that's the kind of guardrails I guess I'm looking for, to make sure that we, just again, having a healthy discussion about a major change to council rules seems like a very normal, non-threatening proposal. I realize I'm going to get voted down. We made massive changes to council rules last year. This is not normal. I'm going on my 8th year. But I definitely think that this idea could have merit, and if done properly, it could also earn public trust, and maybe over time it will. But as it stands, what we talked about is districted cities where one council person may not know what's going on in another district, and just sort of some vague things. And I do want to say something. Interim city attorney mentioned that there's open meeting violations because a council person might speak off off topic. I've never seen that happen. I mean, there has not been, people have gone off topic, and the city attorney, whoever's sitting at that desk, shuts us up pretty darn quick. So I don't see that as a problem we're trying to solve. But anyway, I think this, again, I think in an environment where the public was encouraged and enabled and to also contribute, then this would be more appealing, but it feels a little overbearing at the moment. But I will go with the majority. I will oppose it, but support the outcome.
Vice Mayor Quasman.
I just want to remind the members here that a member of the city council is not the arbitrator of public trust. Like, just because Councilmember Whitehead decides this is bad does not mean the public has been hoodwinked. And an executive session, a study session to have a robust discussion. I don't know if anybody else has been here for the last 15 to 20 minutes, but I would call this a robust discussion on the rules with variances and questions and answers asked and answered. So I just want to be very clear that we don't need unanimity up here for to have respect for one another and to move forward. And I'm not going to let members here get away with saying that unless I like it, the city's in disarray, the city's going crazy. Unless I like something, it's bad. And that's just not correct. And I know, again, I go back to the fact that it's a campaign year, and I understand that. However, I'm not going to let members get away with the fact that there's going to be a lot of 5-2 votes and 4-3 votes in 2026, and that's okay. And I think that a 20-minute discussion out in the open, not everything in the is more than adequate, and not everything in the world needs a study session and more time taken. If we have, this is pretty innocuous. If we need to change it later on, I'm sure that the members of the council will be ready and willing to do so. So with that, I reiterate my second to, and I'd like to call the question. Thank you.
I'm just going to close. I have a comment for City Clerk Ben Lane in response to that. The council rules of procedure change all the time. As Clerk Ben Lane told us, they've changed 7 times and presumably 75 years. I think they were instituted in 2011 in a formal way, but it's not very frequent. It's been way more frequent on this dais. So with that, we will take a vote, and the motion on the table is to approve these rules. Please indicate your vote. All right, moving right along. Where are we? That concludes item number 20, and we're going to move on to non-agendized public comment. And public comment is reserved for Scottsdale citizens, business owners, and/or property owners to comment on non-agendized items that are within the council's jurisdiction. No official action can be taken on the items the speakers raise, and you will have 3 minutes to do so. If you'd like to speak on a non-agendized issue, please see a member of the staff, the city clerk in particular, and I'm going to go through these names, although I feel like a lot of people left at the beginning when we didn't suspend the rules, but I see Steve Sutton and Dan Isaac here, so we'll start with those two. Steve? Oh, he's granting his time to D, right? D? Yeah, D. Sorry about that. She's coming right down. D. Logan. That's right. I was going to call you D. Bloom. I'm not sure why. Okay. D. Logan. Thank you for joining us of the famous Scottsdale Farmers Market.
So I think I'm coming from an alternate universe. I just want to say that right now because that's nothing that we're going to be talking about. But I wanted to, first of all, this has been sort of a little bit of a rough ride for the Old Town Scottsdale Farmers Market. So, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Dee Logan, and I'm the senior coordinator for the Old Town Scottsdale Farmers Market and the founder of Arizona Community Farmers Market Group. Anyway, so we're, we're in a position right now where there's a lot of confusion, there's a little bit of misinformation going on about where we're going to be. And it's going to be kind of difficult to get all of that information out. We're here at the parking corral through June, and per our contract with the city, we're going to be over at City Hall parking starting in October. And I think that's what's going to happen. So anyway, so the one thing I just want to say is our first concern, and I'm using a letter that somebody sent me. Our first concern is that we continue with our market mission, which is basically doing its important work as an economic driver, a small business incubator for all forms of agriculture, which includes specialty crop growers, ranchers, apiarists, wild crop foragers, and other significant ventures. Now, all of this is different kinds of information streams that the council and the citizenry may or may not have access to, but we have to deal with it on a daily basis. We also have specialty foods that are produced and curated, that are local and produced and curated by our groups, and all of this somehow comes together to make a Saturday morning experience for the community here in Scottsdale, which I hope is happy and fun, but also important. So with this, and then I just wanted to let you know that with all these goals that we have, which are, something that are dear to the hearts of the people who are participating in the market, who work with the market group, and also with community members who kind of touch in and experience a little bit of that entrepreneurial spirit, that we want to continue with that, but we also need some help in making sure that the public knows that, we're here, and, we want to be here, and we have a history being here, and we're going to be moving. So help there, please. So I just wanted to then lead to an acknowledgement of the people who have been helping us. Oh, is it time already? Shoot. Okay. Can I continue? Oh, thank you. Okay.
Excuse
I just
me.
want to acknowledge for the folks who've been helping us. And so Rachel Smintana, who took on cheerfully, us when she became the director of the tourism, et cetera. And then Cheryl Sumners, who's been holding my hand and our hand for many, many years, getting through us. And then also with the council members, all of the council have given us their full support, and I really, really appreciate that. Mayor Borowski and Marianne McCullen and Solange Whitehead were there at the very first when we were struggling to figure out, what was going to happen, and we were getting input, about what was going to happen to us. And they sort of went, okay, we've got you, but it's a process. And so that has been almost a year now. Wow. So anyway, and then what happened also, I just want to say, throughout this, we have a market mensch who has been supporting us in different ways, and that is Solange Whitehead, who comes regularly, almost every Saturday, for her honey, her bread, her fresh fruits and vegetables. I've seen a lot of our council people there. The mayor was there, Marianne McCullen. I know that you've been through, all of you guys, so thank you very much. But I do also want to make a real statement that the city has been behind us, helping us through. And with Solange asking these questions, a few months ago, like, what is stopping you? Why are you not wanting to move forward? And she listened to my concerns, and then she went behind the scenes that she can do and talked to the city manager, Greg, thank you, and then to the city attorney, Luis, thank you, like to help us support our objectives. And so we are celebrating you as Market Mensch, Solange. Thank you. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that behind the scenes, the city has been supporting our move, but trying to understand what we need because they're not in the business of putting on farmers markets. The council has been supporting our moves, but again, it's scary for us because we've been there for 15, 16, 17 years, and now we're moving into a new area. So I just want to say thank you all for all of that and letting me go over time. That was really nice. So I'm back to my other reality now.
Thank you so much. And thank you for hanging in there, Dee.
Okay.
We'll do whatever we can, at least from my perspective. I support you, and we'll help you get established over there, even if it's just by word of mouth. So, but hopefully more. Thank you. Going back to the list, Melissa Kemp still here? Oh, Dan. Dan, did we skip you? Dan, I thought you already spoke. I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, Dan, you're next, but Melissa will go, and then Dan.
So thank you for letting me be here. I'm Melissa Kemp. I have a home in McCormick Ranch where I have lived for 25 years. I love this city and I love my neighborhood. Until recently, I have been very invisible in local politics. I have watched, I wasn't disinterested, I read, I go, I see, I watch, and I have been fairly confident that governance here in our city operated fair enough that I didn't need to be here. Well, that has changed. One area that I am very passionate about is sustainability, and I was so dismayed at last year's first action to repeal the sustainability plan against so much visible, present public opposition to that. It was stunning, and for that reason, I started paying more attention. What's become clear to me is that that wasn't an isolated incident. In fact, over and over, this council has, in the face of many citizens coming here, speaking to you and caring about things, essentially ignored that public comment and gone ahead with some very divisive majority decisions. So no matter how sizable, how audible, how visible that public input was, it did not appear to have any influence on the councilors sitting in front of me today. In December of 2025, this council made a procedural rule change to restrict public comment, to move it to the end. The open public comment is now 7 o'clock at night after 2 hours, and I actually thought it might be later. So I think with that decision, I decided I couldn't sit on the sidelines anymore, that it was time to stand up, be recognized, and be heard and get active, because that's just the wrong way to go. Open public comment serves a very different purpose than speaking on an agendized item. Open public comment, among other things, it functions as sort of your canary in a coal mine. It's where your citizens can step up and tell you what's on their mind and what's of concern to them early enough that you have a shot at understanding things that are bubbling up before they get big, before they get expensive, and before they get out of hand. So when you shut down open public comment, or when you push it to the back and you don't listen to it and you ignore it, what you've really done is cut off your own source of early intel for what's going on in your community. That doesn't strike me as very smart. When you quiet or delay an early warning system, those problems don't go away. They just don't surface early. They surface later when they're bigger, they're harder, they're more expensive, and they're more disruptive. As a resident, as a taxpayer, as a homeowner, I need to trust that my local government is there for me, responsive to me, listening to me. And that trust doesn't require me to agree with every decision you make. It is fair to have decisions that don't meet the will of the people every time. What isn't okay is that we watch our leaders, we try to speak with them, and it seems that it doesn't matter and they don't hear. That's where you lose trust. And that's where you lose respect. And that's where you find people like me, who you've never seen before, standing up and saying, stop. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you so much, Melissa, and thank you for being here. Dan Isaac. Sorry, Dan.
Apparently, you don't want me to speak again.
I do.
Dan Isaac, address on record. I want to speak to the December meeting that I missed because I have a life and don't come to all of these meetings. And it applies to tonight's rule change as well. I'm all for data. I'm an analytic. I believe decisions should be based on data. Here's the problem with the data that was presented in December and tonight. 1, it is not random. 2, it is not complete. And 3, it is not accurately summarized for the council to make a decision. For example, the fact that the council member had to ask, do any of the cities have a limit on how long the council members can prattle on? Should never have been asked. It should have been in the materials. Similarly, it was discussed at the last meeting that Phoenix has public comment at the end. Nobody mentioned that the Phoenix meeting started, I believe, at 2:30 as opposed to 5. So residents don't need to wait until 8 p.m. to speak. That's an important data point. If this council is going to say that they're using data to inform their decisions, then get the data. And our city staff did not do their job because they did not provide that data. Moreover, I don't understand why anybody on this council aspires to be Phoenix or any other Valley city. Scottsdale is exceptional. Scottsdale is special. I do not believe most of these council members want to emulate Phoenix with regard to their zoning and their building. I don't believe that this council wants to emulate Mesa or Tempe with regard to many items. So using a peer city in the valley as justification to silence the public is absurd and hypocritical. Councilmember Littlefield, you said that you had to vote against the Axon Memorandum of Understanding because all of the emails were opposed to it. First of all, that was factually incorrect, or you lied. I don't know which one is true. But the December meeting was 98% opposed to the changes in the rules of procedure for the meeting. So you claim that you have to listen to residents, but you repeatedly only listen to residents when it aligns with your belief or what Barry tells you to vote. That is inconsistent, inappropriate. But anyway, this council needs to use real data and demand our staff to provide the data to make the right decisions. And please do not aspire to be Phoenix. No Scottsdale resident chose to be in Scottsdale because they couldn't get into Phoenix. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, Carl Fraser, followed by Ryan Johnson, and then Whitney Orman.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. Hopefully bringing you a non-controversial one, nice and easy to start off the year. I want to speak to you all tonight about my concerns over a non-compliant board, specifically the seemingly ever-embattled Public Safety Personnel Retirement System Board. It's prescribed by ARS Title 38, Chapter 5, Article 4, and adopted by the city. The PRS was created to provide uniform, consistent, and equitable statewide program for public safety personnel who are assigned hazardous duty and employee of the state or political subdivision thereof. You guys. As required by AS 38-847 and adopted by the city, the administration of the system and making provisions to the system are vested in a local board. Local board is to be constituted of 5 members, including the mayor's designee, 2 members, one who shall be the head of the merit system or the head's designee, and 2 members of the police department elected by secret ballot for the police local board, or 2 members of the fire department elected by the fire department for the fire local board. If what I've said so far is confusing, and you found yourself lost, buckle in, says the least confusing part. If I go over time, I kindly request that the council indulge me to finish addressing this issue. Unfortunately, the Scottsdale local boards do not seem to be in compliance with the board composition I previously described. The last time where the board met as 5 voting members was on December 12th, 2024. Since then, the board has operated, voted, and taken action as a 4-person organization. The local board has a duty to report the members, secretaries, and legal counsel changes to a statewide board within 10 days. You would think at the same time they'd notify the mayor so that they can begin the appointment process if necessary, but the bylaws were last updated in 1983 for that committee or board and don't require that. Additionally, it's my belief that the current chair/mayoral designee of the board was most recently appointed by Mayor Ortega and approved by the council at the February 2nd, 2021 meeting. If my interpretation of ARS 38-847 is correct, their term would have ended on February 2nd, 2025, yet they've continued to act as chair without further appointment or approval from this council. Now you're down to 3 members. On top of that, it's my belief that this other citizen member, who is also the head of the merit system, has no record of being appointed by the mayor and approved by the council prior to beginning their work for the board on January 19th, 2023. Now, this could be due to Scottsdale's interpretation of ARS 38-847 as adopted in Section 2-366 of the Scottsdale City Code, which seems to interpret it as an automatic seat. However, the most common and widely accepted interpretation of that statute still requires that the seat be appointed by the mayor with approval of the council. Now, a 5-person board is down to 2 members. When I saw this, I got concerned, went to apply. I've served on and chaired boards before, and I believe that rules exist for a reason, and compliance to them is important. I got a call from a very nice person in the city clerk's office saying that I needed to choose if I wanted to serve on the fire or police board. However, ARS 38-847 and Section 2-366, subsection B of City Code states that the citizen members will serve on both boards. I'm sure that the city's member of the city clerk office is not familiar with that specific statute or code, but I want to make sure you all are aware so we don't risk further muddying the water. I don't believe that the responsibility for this fiasco rests in the hands of any one person. It's more likely a misinterpretation of the statute by the city. There's no clear procedure written of who is responsible for making notifications of vacant seats or expiring terms, and this board is not one that is scheduled to be reviewed or has been reviewed by the audit committee to catch these deviations from procedure. However, I do believe it's the duty of this council to course correct and bring the board into compliance. Now, what I'm requesting specifically from this council is as follows in accordance with Council Rules of Procedure 7.6. That the council asks the staff to review my claims that 2 appointed members currently operating on the PSPRS board have not been appointed and approved by the council within the last 4 years. 2, to seek advice on the city's interpretation of ARS 38-847 in regards to Section 2-366 of the City Code and interpretation of an automatic versus appointed seat for the mayor head. 3, the staff to make recommendations on what action or actions should occur to bring the board into compliance with ARS 38-847. 4, for staff to make recommendations or provide justification for deviation from the commonly accepted interpretation of ARS 38-847, ensuring that Section 2-366 of the City Code meets the standard for the merit head board. 5, provide a written response to council and myself if possible. 6, depending on the results of the staff review, add agenda items to a regular or special meeting to appoint and approve 1 to 3 nominations to bring the board back into compliance as soon as possible, and potentially revise Section 2-366 of the City Code. At best, city staff will find documentation, but trust me, I've searched and haven't found it, of mayoral appointment and council approval of the mayoral designee and citizen members occurring within the last 4 years. Then all that needs to happen is one citizen is appointed to fill the spot that's been open for over a year. At worst, a board who has a fiduciary duty to Scottsdale's police and fire personnel, as well as a statewide retirement system for our public safety officers, has gone rogue and operated that way for almost a year, potentially opening the city and its public safety retirement system up to future litigation. Madam Mayor, if the staff review shows what I believe it will show, I'd appreciate an opportunity to discuss with you how I might be of service to the city in ways that we can prevent anything like this from happening again. Thank you.
Thank you, and I did allow you extra time. That almost qualifies. Thank you for coming to speak to us. It was very interesting. Carl, right? Yeah. And City Clerk, can we convert that to a citizen petition? Because essentially what he asked for was the same as a petition. What can we do on that?
Mayor, members of the council, I'll ask answer the question. We did change the rule about how we submit petitions. It's supposed to be in writing.
And what's the requirement again? 2 days? 2 days. 2 business days. 2 business days. Yeah, it's not agendized. So let's hold that thought for now, and I'm going to continue on with the speakers. Let's see, we've got Ryan Johnson. Is Ryan still here? All right. Whitney Warman. Whitney? I see Sonny Kirtley was here. Did she leave? She took off. All right. David Glaseman? Nope. I do see Pat Lohman, so you're up. And then I see former Councilwoman Linda Milhaven, who will close the public comment.
Thank you, Mayor and Councilman. I have 2 items that it's going to be short. Trust me. When preparing to speak at this, and this being my first time, I read the multiple paragraphs of explanation on and needed it sorted out by I need to have it sorted out by a friend. I mean, to me, it was like, dare I say, word salad. Where is the one button for requests to speak? I am asking to simplify that system, get rid of all that verbiage in there so we can understand, push the speak button and have it sorted out within the questionnaire. That's what I would suggest. Okay, second, regarding public comments. I suggest there needs to be further discussion on your moving the public comments to the end of the agenda. The message you are sending to the public has ended up on Nextdoor and multiple other discussion groups. Messaging is being sent is that residents go last or hope they won't come. Maybe that's something that's the reason it's at the end. I know compliments are far and few between, and it's hard to get anything, but trust me, if you start listening to residents and responding to them directly, you will be getting more kudos. That's just how it works. I know, yes, we all have families, children, activities, senior activities, et cetera, et cetera. If allowed to speak at the front end of the agenda, everybody's busy. We can manage that. But sitting here for 2 hours, over 2 hours, and waiting, and I guess half the people have left. If I had kids at home, I would have left too. So I think there's a lot being left there. And my question to you is, what do you think your messaging is to the residents by what you've done based on what's being talked in social media? I don't think it's what you want to hear. And if they knew that you were going to keep your promise of residents first, I mean, isn't that why they voted for you? And that's not how it's ending up. So I just ask you to keep your promise of residents first and not the residents last. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Always great to see you. Former Councilwoman Linda Milhaven.
Mayor, members of council, Linda Milhaven. I live on McCormick Ranch, and I'd like to start by wishing all of you a happy new year and spend my time looking at the future with some hope and positivity. While some of us may not have voted for all 7 of you, we all pray for your success. There are 240,000 of our neighbors sitting at home tonight, leading their lives, who all hope that you are doing the right thing for the greater good of the community. I believe as neighbors, we all have the same shared goals. We want a safe, clean, beautiful community with a high quality of life, first-class services and amenities, and that you're good stewards of our tax dollars. While we all agree as neighbors on the goals, we may disagree on the means. And as we discuss the means, we trust that you will study the issues, listen to everyone, especially when you disagree, because we know when we have a robust disagreement, we often come up with a better third idea that is better than anything any of us could come up with individually, and then make decisions based on the greater good. So, as neighbors, we hope that you will rise above petty disagreements, that you will cooperate, collaborate, and be transparent and forthcoming. Residents are smart people, and we hold our electeds to a high standard. We want you to walk the talk. Actions speak louder than words. We've heard some great words today about moving forward with positivity, and so we will be looking for you to walk the walk. We pray for your success because our community depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that is our last speaker.
Mayor, I apologize.
Are you taking your time back, Steve?
Steve Sutton.
Oh, okay. Well, go right ahead.
Mayor Borowski and council. I think it's really interesting that what Ms. Kemp said, and Mr. Isaac, and some of the other speakers said about allowing the people to speak to you and how important that is. I take note of how many people who signed up for public comment tonight but just couldn't stay this late to do it. Now, there's so much misinformation about so many things I've heard in this council. I want to address one specifically about public comment that's been repeated again tonight by somebody who should know better since they are an attorney. And that is, Councilman Quasman, stop justifying your change of public comment rules and saying that you took into consideration First Amendment rights. There is no First Amendment right to speak at a council meeting. So stop trying to say that you were considering that, since you certainly didn't. You're an attorney, you know that. The justification for removing audiovisual support for people who want to speak up here, I talked to 3 lawyers about that. The concern about copyright infringement, the concern about obscenity. They gave me a pretty long explanation about just how minuscule the possibility of those events happening are, and I asked them, how would you summarize that? And it was basically, it's basically what comes out of the south end of a northbound bull. Now you're going to get the biggest public comment in your entire political career soon. You're going to have thousands of angry people about building a parking garage at the parking corral. You are grossly miscalculating what public sentiment is on this. It grows in leaps and bounds every week. It's now just on the residents' petition about 3,500 signatures, and it's only been going on for 2 months. More importantly, since you seem to be more concerned about developers and business owners rather than the actual residents, I think there's about 60 businesses down in the little Old Town area there between Indian School and 2nd Street and the east side of Brown and Scottsdale Road. And I've talked to over half of them now that have signed a petition saying they don't want this. They're concerned about how it's going to impact them economically, from the loss of shared customers. They're concerned about how construction is going to impact them. And they certainly have a history to know that. I believe it's Carlos Santayana who said something about those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. Well, we already know of at least 2 businesses that went out of business because of the building of the parking corral. And that was a relatively minor construction project compared to what we're about to do. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Steve. And that concludes our public comment for this evening. Next, we have no citizens petitions, and Carl, we're going to, oh yeah, there. We're going to ask you to get in touch with the city to tell you how to do that. Let's see. Next, we have item number 22, which is mayor and council items. Request from Councilwoman Whitehead to direct the city manager and treasurer to agendize the Old Town Scottsdale advertising, marketing, and PR services contract number 2025-192 COS and resolution number 13562 for a presentation, discussion, and possible action by the council. Again, we're going to ask to have that. Go right ahead, and why don't you speak to it?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So, last year, after 10 years of having a marketing contract, there was a request, I don't know if it was business owners, request to put out an RFP and consider new marketing companies. And after a 7-8 month long RFP process, one company was awarded the contract and then denied at a council meeting. And I think there was a lot of misinformation, misrepresentation, and clarity needed. First of all, again, these are voter-approved tourism dollars for marketing, and the city's always had, or for 10 years has had a marketing contract. And so all I'm asking of my colleagues today, and I know Councilwoman Littlefield and I have spent a lot of time in Old Town working on behalf of businesses there, is simply to bring this back and certainly allow the winning company, the CEO of the winning company, to answer questions and make sure that if in fact we're going to deny this contract, it's based on accurate information. So and thank you to staff for allowing time for this to be continued. And I motion to, as stated in item 22, agendize a presentation, discussion, and possible action on the Old Town Scottsdale Advertising, Marketing, and Public Relations Services contract. And I hope I will get support for that.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. And again, this is not approving it. It's simply to allow further discussion before we vote to deny, approve, or modify. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. Are we really, this isn't, I'm betting you for debate on, if I can ask the parliamentarian, because I kind of have some responses to that I wanted to say, but I kind of feel restrained by rule limitations.
Mayor and members of the council, we did in the last rule change allow for some minor discussion or limited discussion when it comes to these items. And one shot for each council members.
Okay. One shot per each?
Yes.
Okay. I think that I was speaking with City Manager Greg Caton on this, and he is, well, I mean, you know, part of the reason that the city went out to look for a new marketing vendor was because we weren't getting value for our tax dollars. And, you know, we're spending over $1 million a year here of your bed taxes to market Old Town. And, you know, really we were faced with, I wouldn't even call it diminishing returns. I would almost call it invisible returns. There didn't seem to be hardly anything, and we had the prior vendor for a very long time. And we got a lot of feedback from merchants and other stakeholders in Old Town saying, you know, begging us to take a look at this because they did not feel the push from the marketing. And so we got a bid, or we got several bids, which, you know, one aspect of it that I wasn't comfortable with was that one of our existing vendors was part of the selection committee. I had big problems with that, or concerns with that made me uncomfortable. And, that was sort of gave me pause for when that came to council. Something else that gave me pause when it came to council was that the contract was for $1.3, $1.4 million, and the vast majority, over $1 million, was going to be going to administrative overhead. So you were going to give us, through bed taxes, over 1.4, call it 1.4 million, over $1 million of that was going to be going to fund somebody's overhead and administrative overhead. And that became clear to us that that wasn't a good return on investment for your tax dollar. And so talking with the city manager, we have deployment of funds coming out forthwith. And my position that I expressed at that meeting was, let's give our city tourism department a shot, a crack at it, and see what they can do, and see how the stakeholders, after a few months, maybe as we approach fiscal 20, or be approaching fiscal 27 here, see what kind of value we're getting out from our own personnel. And so I see the city manager slightly nodding. He's always restrained. So I'm excited. I'm really excited for that path forward. They're already mobilizing resources to do exactly that. Definitely, we all agree up here, I think 7-0, that we agree that we couldn't keep doing the same thing and hope for a different result. Staff, maybe the stakeholders aren't satisfied with how we do it, but we can hear from them, get feedback, and we can always come back and do another RFP. So I appreciate my colleagues broaching the issue, but I think we let our staff members operate, and instead of us deciding up here how this goes, let's see how things go, and then hear from a bottom-up standpoint what we get from our stakeholders and what they tell us about the results of this program. So with that, I will move to take no action. Thank you.
Second.
There's already a motion on the floor.
So there was a motion on the floor, so I don't know what you're...
Oh, alternate. I alternately moved to take no action. Thank you, Mayor.
No problem. So let's finish the discussion. Councilwoman McCallan.
Thank you, Mayor. I do think that the agency that was selected was not given the ability to defend themselves publicly. I have received a lot of email about this item, and the concern, the vendors, the businesses, the people who have called. This week we have an Old Town mixer where all the merchants will come, and I am sure they will let us know how they feel. And they will let our city manager, our tourism department know how they feel about us taking this on our own. I don't believe that, I think the perception that the contract was 40% overhead was not lined out correctly, and we did not allow the James Agency to defend themselves. I would like us to actually investigate that more, and I think that's what Councilwoman Whitehead was getting at before the alternative motion. If this does get voted down and it is staff that's working on this, of course we want you to succeed. But we also have to know when to choose the professionals who are actual marketing professionals who solely do this. And no disrespect to our staff. I know they are stretched beyond with the tasks that they already have to do. And doing this at a time where we're at the height of the season is not obviously ideal. So we should be looking to the future and the RFP already for the future because we need marketing professionals to be handling this for our businesses that have entrusted the city to build up the Old Town. That's my opinion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman DeBosk.
So I had the pleasure of seeing an ad for Old Town Marketing pop up on Facebook today. And I was speaking with the city manager, Greg Caton, and we started advertising today. So our program has taken effect. City manager, can you give us just a brief description of the work that you've done so far and the launch point and the plans for the next little bit here?
Yeah, thank you. I was saying yes to my colleague who was encouraging me to be brief in my response. And so, Madam Mayor and Council Member, yes, this is the implementation of a memorandum that I issued to City Council on December 26th after the decision that was made in early December, and quite frankly, we were left without a firm. I wanted to ensure Old Town's success for the remainder of the fiscal year. So in the short time between December 26th of sending this out to City Council, we have stood up an internal team which is made up of approximately nine individuals, and so it's a team effort, collaboration across 4 different departments. And so a little bit of the reporting out to City Council that I anticipate is regular weekly correspondence on our ads, our campaigns, and reporting measures, and particularly the metrics. We talk a lot about metrics in our group as we've stood up several meetings over the last few weeks. And so much like some of the legislative updates that you get or the Westworld updates, many of those on a real regular basis, I think some might say uncle at some certain amount of time, where you get a lot of information, anticipate that coming, because we've been doing a lot of organization within our team, and really excited about ramping this up. As you referenced, it got launched today in kind of a soft launch, I would refer to it. And we have the skill set. We have the skill set within the organization. I'm familiar with managing this at a high level in my previous organizations and bring that to the team. The team is very skilled, and they have skills I don't have. It's, again, cross-departmental, and I'm impressed, which I am usually on a daily basis, with the skill set that we have. And I think what you'll see, I know what you'll see over the remaining 5.5 months here is you're going to see presence. And if you don't, it's because we're marketing to people that aren't familiar with Old Town. We're marketing to the leisure market. We're marketing to the traveler who is here and looking to experience our community. And so that's a lot what you'll see over the next 5.5 months, with regular reporting and also significant engagement with our Old Town merchants. I'll stop at that. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. I'm going to jump in before I call on Councilwoman Whitehead again. So it would seem the fix is in, if you will. I had concerns when I saw the email that we were essentially developing a PR firm subdivision of the city based on direction of council from the last meeting. While I sat through the meeting, I didn't hear that direction, that we would scrap the idea entirely of the PR contract and put it in-house, whereby we would have, we would be empowering you to develop a PR division of the city, which you've just outlined. So I have real concerns about that. I've heard that, not that you can't do it, I just have concerns that that's a policy decision that we heard just now that Councilman Graham and Councilwoman DeBoskis have discussed with you. But the rest of us, were, at least I'm speaking for myself, I was surprised to see that. When I left the last meeting, I certainly expected that that contract, which for the record was to be overseen by the Director of Economic Development, Tourism, right? Our city's department. So there was play in that. It was not a fixed, I think Councilman Graham said $1 million out of the 1.3 contract. $1.3 million contract would be dedicated to overhead and administrative, payments. I didn't see it that way at all. I saw that as an estimate. There was an estimate of what would be used on the advertising budget, and that was to be overseen by our department head and could be tweaked. There was no doubt that that was not it was not a fixed allocation, and there was play in that could be dictated by our staff, who's empowered to do that. So I have real concerns, and I guess I'm going to say a few other things. I guess that's all I wanted to say on those two. Here's the other point I wanted to make. You know, Councilman Graham, I'm sure you've heard from people about their dissatisfaction with the prior vendor on the Old Town Marketing contract. I never heard from anyone, so I'm not in that 7-0. I never heard some widespread disappointment in the external marketing contract. That certainly wasn't anything that was directed to my office. So I'm not included in that 7-0 vote that thought they were doing a really bad job. In fact, I heard from people that they were doing a good job. I really have no opinion on the prior firm because I didn't study them. I didn't study what they were doing. I was impressed by the contract that came forward from the James Agency. They're known, they're reputable. And I think there is a special talent that comes with doing PR and advertising, and one that may not be within the city's scope of expertise. So I really have some concerns about that, but you know, I see where this is going, and you know, it sounds like that's already, the fix is in, and we're gonna see what happens with it, apparently. So I'm gonna move right along. You know, I'll leave it at that. Councilwoman Whitehead, to close us out.
You know, I just want to thank the Happy Agency, and I want to thank the James Agency. I guess one important reason is to bring this forward is not to take it away from staff or to predetermine the outcome of the vote, but disparaging our businesses in Scottsdale and not allowing clarification. It has been repeated again and again in the paper that...
Point of order. Are we allowed one time?
That's correct. Each person is
Okay,
only
thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman DeBoscus. I do want to thank the Happy Agency and the James Agency because I think both have done good work. All right. Thank you.
That concludes this item. I know there's a motion on the table. There's an alternate motion, which we will take a vote on. And I believe the alternate motion, Councilman Graham, if I recall it correctly, was to take no action. Is that right?
Thank you, Mayor. That's correct.
Thank you. Okay, let's vote on that. All right, so that concludes that item. And moving on, we have a work study session. Did you have a comment, Councilwoman Littlefield?
Before we adjourn our regular meeting, I would like to add something if I could. We approved the request of mine to allow individual comments at the end of a meeting. Is that correct? Regarding issues that have to do with the city, of course.
Yes, but that will be effective the next council meeting because it has to be agendized.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Okay, we're not adjourning, we're moving to a work study session. And the work study session, of course, provides a less formal setting for the mayor and council to discuss specific topics at length with each other and city staff and give possible direction to staff. And this evening we have a work session item on the fiscal year and 2024-25 financial report. And for that, we'll hear from Sonia Andrews, City Treasurer.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Next slide. Our fiscal year ends on June 30th, and we close our books and we prepare our annual financial report, which is then audited by our firm Heinfeld Meach, whom you heard from earlier tonight. And we then present the results of the audit to our audit committee in November. And tonight's presentation is the last step of our process to close out our 24-25 fiscal year. Next slide. Before I begin the presentation, I'd like to take a moment to recognize and thank Anna Henthorn, who's in the audience here. She's our Assistant City Treasurer, and the whole entire accounting team who worked incredibly hard and put all their efforts into producing the annual financial report. We earned the GFOA Award for Excellence in Reporting for the last 52 years, and we will be submitting our 2025 report for this award again this year. Next slide. So for tonight's year-end presentation, I will be highlighting the audited results, including balance sheet and also a few financial trends for you, and we will also report on the expenditure limitation. Next slide. Starting out with the operating results, next slide. Starting out with our general fund, total general fund revenues for fiscal year 24-25 were $11 million or 2% higher than the prior year, and that's because of increased sales tax, fees and charges, and a lot of additional unrealized investment gains. It was offset by a decrease in state shared revenues. Our expenditures went up by $7 million or 2% across the board, primarily from personnel costs and other cost increases. Other sources and uses decreased due to lower transfers out to our capital projects. Next slide. And here's a breakdown of the major categories of our general fund revenues and expenses. As you can see, sales tax increased by 2%, primarily in our auto, miscellaneous retail, construction categories, and offset by a decrease in our residential rental sales tax. Fees and charges increased by 10% due to increases in Westworld and TPC and other event fees. And you can see that some of the ones I will highlight, capital outlay decreased by $13 million or 93%, and that's because those are various equipments, including subscription-based technology arrangements, and these are capitalized assets that are not regular annual expenses, so there are usually fluctuations from year to year for that. Next slide. So the other large funds that we have are our capital projects funds. Revenues in our capital projects funds increased by $23 million or 51%, mostly due to the regional transportation sales tax that we received from MAG for our arterial life cycle program. Next slide, we also issued $107 million in our third issuance of the bond 2019 debt. And expenditures were, transfers in were again lower because of less transfers in from the general fund. Expenditures were lower primarily because of completion of projects and timing of our new projects as well. Next slide. And so for our, can you go back one slide? I think we skipped one slide. These are our other restricted revenue funds. Mostly it's the preserve tax fund, the tourism bed tax fund, the transportation sales tax fund, and the debt service funds. And these funds are pretty stable year to year. We collect the revenues and we pay the expenses for which the restricted revenues are used for. And primarily the lower expenditures is because of lower debt service. Next slide. And our last group of funds that I will talk about is our enterprise funds. That's our water, sewer, solid waste, and airport. Revenues increased primarily in this group of funds, primarily due to water and sewer increases, as well as solid waste increases. And on the expenditure side, we also actually had water and sewer and other operating increases, but they were offset by a adjustment for the sewer fund equity in joint venture. So overall, there was a net decrease. Other sources decreased primarily due to lower developer contributions. So next slide, moving on to our balance sheet. Next slide. We ended the fiscal year with an increase of $240 million in cash and investments, and primarily that's because we issued debt towards the end of 2025. We issued $107 million in bond 2019 debt, and we also issued about $120 million in water sewer debt. And those bond proceeds have yet to be spent as of June 30, and that's why the cash went up, and that's the reason. Assets increased primarily because of our projects, and bonds and loans increased because of the debt we issued, and we paid down some of our pension liability and also other liabilities. So breaking all those components of the balance sheet down, next slide. For the $1.3 billion in cash and investments, you'll see that this pie chart shows the breakdown of the cash and investments by all our major funds. The general fund has $270 million in cash, restricted funds $261 million, the capital projects funds $391 million, and again, primarily a lot of that $391 million was unspent bond proceeds. At the end of the year, we issued bonds. Same with the enterprise funds. We issued debt towards the end of the year, so those funds haven't been spent down yet. And next slide. And just to share a 5-year trend of our liquidity, it's positive. The city maintains strong liquidity for emergencies and unexpected events, economic downturns. We are also self-insured for some of our insurance programs. And we have reserves for capital needs as well as maintaining our AAA bond ratings. Next slide. And on to our capital assets, we have $6.7 billion in net book value for capital assets made up primarily of our land, which includes our preserved land, water and sewer systems, street and storm drain systems, building and improvements. So that makes up all our capital assets. Next slide. On the liability side, we have $1.3 billion in debt and pensions. As of June 30th, you can see this is the breakdown of our debt and pension liabilities, our pension liabilities being the largest at $336 million. Next, it would be our water and sewer debt, property tax supported debt, that's the bond 2019, and we still have some bond 2015 program debt, and other excise tax debt as well. And next slide. And the ratio that we monitor is the debt service and required pension contribution as a percent of our total revenues. Here's the 5-year trend. Our rating agencies look at this ratio as well. So for example, S&P assigns an A rating for this ratio if it's between 14 and 20%. Overall, our bond rating is still AAA, but our debt service and required pension contribution ratio is a little higher than A-rated credit. The peer city average that we look at, their ratio is about 15%, so our target is to stay at or below 20% for this ratio. Next slide. For the pension funded status, we are the yellow line is our fire pension, the PSPR's pension. We are at 81.5%. The orange line at the bottom is our police PSPRS. We have been increasing that with our extra contribution. As of the end of the 2025 valuation, we're at 74.8%. And our peer cities are at 82 and 83% for police and fire. And we have, as you know, budgeted an additional $50 million for this fiscal year, which will bring that funded status for police up to 83%. And next slide. So for the year that just ended, we maintained our strong AAA bond rating, and our city's finances are sound. We also recently provided City Council with a more detailed financial conditions report with more ratios and trends and analysis of the city's financial condition. And that ends the section on the year-end report. I will move on to the next slide, which is the report on our expenditure limitation. Next slide, please. And next slide. So for the year that just ended, our expenditure limitation, which is imposed by the state and calculated by the state, is $613.4 million. And our preliminary estimate, we're still working on the final estimate, is not due till later in the year. Our preliminary estimate is currently $564.5 million, so we're at 92%. The recent voter-approved increase for our expenditure limit is not effective till this fiscal year, which is 25-26. And that ends my presentation. I can take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, and congratulations on the award. Excellent work. Lots of years in a row, so that's very impressive. I don't see any questions or comments, so I think you're off the hot seat. Well done. All right, that concludes our evening's agenda, and that concludes the study session. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, we're out of here. We're out of here.